Conservative MP, elected in 2005, Charles Walker, good to see you. What's the impact of people, MPs, standing down, sometimes after one term?
I mean, I think you need a turnover in members of Parliament. I think that being there for 30 years is good for a few, but I'm not sure it's good for the many. That's the nature of politics. I am sad, though, when I see people call it a day after 5 years. I think that is sad. I certainly know after 5 years I was still loving it. I thought I'd be here for the rest of my life, carry me out in a box, but I wasn't in a marginal seat. Yeah. And I think the experiences of a Member of Parliament in a safe seat is entirely different to the experience of a Member of Parliament in a marginal seat.
So you say that you're sad about MPs who stand down after one term, but you did this big report into why MPs stand down. You did this in February, and one of the things you said was that some long-standing MPs, so people who have been in Parliament for a long time, would love to quit, but fears about finding a job after leaving stop them doing so. How widespread a problem do you think that is?
So there is a clear cliff edge now. If you come into Parliament, you leave your substantive career in your 20s, 30s or even 40s, and you're there for a period of time. When you leave Parliament, be it 2 years, 5 years or 20 years, you've stepped out of your career. And employers say, well, I don't understand what skills you would bring to my organisation. And the fact of the matter is, as you know, members of Parliament have a huge number of skills. We're just lousy at articulating them. So what my report said is that when you become a Member of Parliament, you should be planning to leave the day you arrive. And I think it's really important for members of Parliament to have access to really good vocational career qualifications. We're great negotiators. We're great at dispute resolution. Many of us are really good communicators, and those skills could be captured in vocational qualifications. But also we would benefit from advice from experts in outplacement and headhunting and recruitment as to what you might want to do if you thought about leaving. And I know it's very difficult for members of Parliament often to think about leaving, but it comes to almost all of us at some stage. And my experience, I sit on the Members' Fund, which supports members of Parliament who are in financial trouble, former members of Parliament, is that actually far more colleagues than you or I would have ever thought struggle to find employment once they leave the House of Commons. Now, your viewers may say, well, too bad for them, tough. But the real problem is people looking to come into the House of Commons, really talented people, think, why on earth would I want to do that? I'm a really successful academic, I'm a really successful bioscience engineer, and I'm going to come out of my career and I'm going to spend 10 years in Parliament. Then actually when I leave, either because the electorate want me to go or I've had enough, then I'm going to find it really very difficult to pick up where I left off. So actually I'm not going to go into Parliament.
Interesting. How would it work, this making headhunters available or other employers, potentially employers available? Do you have a vision of that?
Yeah, I do, because, again, Gloria, sorry to keep bringing you in, but you are an ex-colleague. What members of Parliament are good at, in the main, is giving advice. Both you and I in our surgeries, just being around, our emails, we end up giving a lot of really good advice to people. We're really lousy at taking advice and seeking out advice. And it would just be good to have confidential sounding boards where a Member of Parliament could say, look, I'm thinking of leaving. What is it I should be doing to pave the way for me to get out of here? Of course, all within the rules. And, you know, Gloria, we want people to feel after 20 or 30 years, as I did after 17, 18 years, that now is the time to go, to be able to go. The worst thing we can have is MPs saying, look, I've been here for 20 years, I'm in my 50s, I don't enjoy it anymore, but it's a safe seat, I think I'll just stick around and pick up the money. But actually, ideally I'd like to go, but it's just too risky for me to go because I don't know what I do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That isn't good for the MP, but more importantly, it's not good for that MP's constituents. As I said, you've got to have someone there who wants to do it 110%.
So you're thinking like a career service for MPs?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I haven't articulated it yet as brilliantly as that, but that is a career service for members of Parliament. And again, I say it's so that members of Parliament who are not 110% on their game can transition out, and our constituents can get new people in who are really excited about being MPs, and hopefully some really talented people who think, I can afford to take the chance of stepping out of my substantive career because there are opportunities down the road for me to get back into it.
Interesting. Don't know if you'd like to speculate. How many sort of time servers, what percentage of the House do you think are bed blockers, I suppose, staying beyond their desire or need?
That would be unfair of me to speculate on that number, but I certainly know that I will probably be leaving at 57. If I didn't go at 57 and stayed until I was 62, I then think, well, who's going to want me at 62? I better stay till I'm 67. Then you get to 67, you think, well, actually, I need to keep myself mentally engaged. I might stay to 72. And I just don't necessarily think that is fair or right. Now, don't get me wrong, David Davis, one of my best friends, he's probably near 70, and he's amazing. He's got all the energy of an 18-year-old.
Absolutely.
But
there
that's
are
not the case.
exceptions like that. Harriet Harman, she is standing down, but she's completely indefatigable as well. One other thing in your report that I just wanted to explore, you said the House of Commons should continue the provision of security for those deemed to be at high risk of an ongoing threat. How do you make that judgment? Because everyone's going to say, well, I think I'm
I don't think they will.
Okay.
Those people are known to our internal security advisors, and that was an important part of the report that we had to put in. We know of 2 or 3 colleagues who faced significant threat when they left the House as a result of being MPs. And of course, in the old system or the current system, I think it's changing and will change. When you left the House, that sort of fell away immediately, and we have an ongoing duty of care to those that have served. Is
there a system whereby those members who are at risk, MPs at risk, when they leave, is someone monitoring that?
It is the case at the last election that when you left, you were very much handed over to your local police force in your area where you lived.
I don't think I was.
Whereas we believe it's important, and the House Service believe it's important, that where there is a really identified, active, ongoing risk, that the House maintains its involvement in making sure that Member of Parliament feels, or former Member of Parliament, feels safe and secure.
But you think we're talking tiny numbers?
We're not talking huge numbers, thankfully.
Okay. That was all really interesting. I just want to talk to you, change subject, and talk to you about the fact that for more than 3 decades you have suffered with obsessive compulsive disorder. Can you tell me how that manifests itself?
I tend to wash my hands a lot, which I don't mean to be flippant, was really good during COVID, because the advice was wash your hands a lot, and I already did that. And I sort of tend to count in evens numbers, but sort of weird little obsessions. I had it quite badly when I was younger, and it comes in waves. But thankfully, as I've got older and more settled and balanced in who I am, less of an issue. But hugely sympathetic for those that suffer from OCD. I mean, it does drive me wild when people say because they like to have their ornaments in a certain way on a table, I've got OCD. That's just you like your ornament. You like being tidy. I mean, OCD for really serious sufferers is a life-altering illness, and very sadly, some people end up being committed to hospital because it is literally destroying their lives. So it is at its extreme a very serious condition for many.
And when I read an interview with you about this, you said the illness had taken you to some quite dark places. You don't have to answer, but if you want to elaborate on it, it struck me, quite dark places is serious 3 words, are a serious 3 words.
Well, I mean, I said that 10 years ago. When you grow up as a child with all these tics and involuntary thoughts and all these sort of terrible things going on in your head, you think I must be mad. You think I must be suffering alone. And actually, it was only in later life that I discovered that these were all the symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder. And, I took great comfort in that. And I worked with an organisation that actually supports women who are recent mothers, because OCD, you can have sort of maternal OCD that hits a woman straight after having a child, and they have all these terrible thoughts that they might, drop their baby into a bath of scalding water, or drop the baby down the stairs, and they've been frightened to sort of mention this to a social worker in case the child's taken away. But actually working with government, and we work with a brilliant minister, Dan Poulter, we've made real progress now. So social workers are now aware of maternal OCD, and women have the space and confidence to talk about it, and that's a really good thing.
We're coming to the end of the interview, so I just want to get the benefit of your historical perspective, experience, I suppose, really. So you've done nearly a 20-year stint in Parliament. What's been the hardest period for you during that time?
I loved the first 4 years, and then we had expenses, and that coincided with the financial crisis, and then it sort of got harder every year. And the challenges seem to get bigger. I mean, in this Parliament, we've had COVID. Well, we started off with Brexit, then we had COVID, then we've had this terrible war in Ukraine being perpetrated by Russia, and then we've had China with zero COVID. The problems just get bigger and bigger. And to all those people who think there are simple solutions to complex questions, I would say, if there were, we would have found them by now. Being in government is really difficult. Being in opposition is really difficult. I just don't think there are simple solutions to complex problems. The world is a really complicated place, and I think most politicians try their best. And I do think it's incumbent on all political parties to look at the way members of Parliament experience Parliament, to see if adaptations could be made to attract people with bigger brains. We always need people like me. We need people who are emotional and all over the place and gut politicians. That's fine. There's always a space for us. But we do need, I don't think we attract the really big thinkers we attracted in the past. And I don't think that's me looking at the past through rose-tinted glasses. I just don't think we do, because politics now is incredibly attritional, very difficult, almost 24 hours a day. And if you do it and you leave, your career is significantly damaged.
Really interesting. Just going to press you one more time.
Yeah.
For you personally, is there of all those periods, or perhaps a different experience that affects you personally, where you just thought, oh my gosh, this is hard. This is hard. I
mean, it was obviously during lockdown. And I think anybody watching my speeches in Parliament would have said, this is really hard for him. I mean, I wasn't talking about myself. I was hopefully speaking up for those people who weren't allowed to have a voice, people suffering in silence, isolated at home with addictions, who didn't seem to get a look in when these decisions were being made. Their health needs didn't seem to get a look in. But yeah, it was hard. And the reason I think I could give voice to their concerns was because I was experiencing some of it myself. I mean, it was hard. It was hard for lots of people, much harder for people who, unlike me, were not living in nice large houses with gardens. And I did feel that these rules were being made by people mostly in nice houses with gardens, and we were expecting people living at the top of tower blocks and in really difficult circumstances, maybe in difficult marriages, large families in small spaces, to bounce along in the same jolly way that we were. And that was entirely unfair. There didn't seem to be a lot of compassion in the way we projected these arguments. I took particular dislike to the phrase COVIDiots. It was just awful and divisive. There are lots of people out there who were really struggling, who actually needed to be out of their home for more than 1 hour of a day.
You have a really great way of expressing yourself. That was really great, energetic interview. Charles Walker, thank you, and good luck on the other side.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gloria.